our protagonist Tuya recently defeating a dragon, all of the random background characters are forced to accept his strength, although there is some jealousy around how many women he has. The village he saved still decides to present the horn of the dragon as a memento for him to save, with him defeating it. But it getting claimed by the government, his efforts were left in vain, leaving the chief of the village to feel bad. On top of the horn, he presents a dagger to Tuya, informing him it was left in the eye of the dragon. This makes Tuya wonder who could possibly be strong enough to deal damage to a dragon with such a small dagger. Kohaku, Tuya's tiger, tells him that there was in fact someone else, but he felt they were weaklings. Then after some time, Tuya arrives at the Beastman capital, where Orgia, the ambassador, introduces the others to the king. With Tuya being an extra, he gets talked to last, but his efforts are finally recognized by the Beast King. He asks who is representing them, and Yumina, the king's daughter, presents herself to the Beast King. This makes him stunned, wondering why such a power kingdom like hers would pay a visit to a lowly beastman. She then presents a letter on top of her presents, putting the king at ease. Here he hears about Tuya defeating the dragon, so this excites him. He asks Tuya to come test his strength, hoping to flex off on all his girlfriends. Before the battle begins, one of the Beast People's nobles informs Tuya that the Beast King is no joke, so he needs to be careful. With this, Tuya is ready to start the battle, thinking it will be an easy match. Then, as soon as the battle begins, he uses magic to make the king slip, thus giving him a free win. This angers him, so he demands another match, this time without the slip spell. The king then rushes Tuya, putting him in a corner without his slip magic. He is forced on the retreat, but thanks to his infinite spamming magic, he is able to buy him some time. He rushes the king, but he moves so fast it's as if he is teleporting. The king explains that this skill is called Excel, giving the power to greatly increase one's speed. Now that Tuya understands this spell, he makes use of it, teleporting behind the king. This makes him question how this is possible, null magic usually being one that is learned at birth and unique to one person. As the fight goes on, it becomes clear who is the alpha among the two, with Tuya winning again. The king admits his defeat and tells Tuya that he has earned the right to stay in his castle for a little while. Later that night, Tuya heads to a party where he finds Lion, his kingdom's head guard. He asks Tuya where Orgia is, him having the hots for her. As they talk, they are interrupted when the ladies finally arrive at the party, including Orgia. Each of the girls come to say hi to Tuya, some looking better in the Beast People outfits than others. With them looking so bad, he decides to take a picture to save for later. He then shows it to the king, who asks for a copy. So Tuya gets to work. He pockets the picture, then changes the subject to asking for pictures of himself. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. With so many options, which 3 girls would you pick for your harem? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now back to the recap. After all this, Tuya becomes exhausted, so he sits down, but he is met by a teddy bear. The bear leads Tuya to a room where a girl is seen sitting in the middle of the room. She welcomes and calls him the Dragon Slayer, closing the door in the process. Tuya gets a little spooked, but continues listening to her. She introduces herself as Lean, an elder of the fairy group and mage for the kingdom. She then informs Tuya that she knows he wants her, but she is too old for him, explaining she is over 600. Tuya notices the teddy bear moving, so he asks how she is moving, so she displays it to him. By giving orders to various objects, she can program them to do various things. Tuya then decides to flex on her, using her own special magic, just because he can. Impressed, Lean asks him how he could possibly use her magic. He explains that he is just like that, and that he can use all magic. Once she hears this, she tells Tuya to become his apprentice, but after seeing his disgusted reaction, she says it was a joke. Tuya notices this and runs away, finally getting some rest after a long day. The following morning, he tries to leave to head to a bar, but Yumina and Linza stop him. They ask what he is doing, so he just decides to take them along. He goes into a forest and starts chopping up the horn he got from the dragon, with hopes of making a new weapon. By using his skill to change anything into anything, he makes a gun with ease, then decides to use his new null spell. He programs a spell to automatically take bullets from his inventory and reload them. Now with a Glock, he shoots a tree, acting like it's his op until his clip runs out. He calls out his new spell, and it automatically reloads, making his gun a success. The girls then ask him for a gun themselves, so he makes them one but smaller. He gives his weapon the real sauce, giving it tons of programmed abilities to change sizes and strengths. One of these is the blade mode attached to his gun, allowing it to dual function as a gun and sword. Tuya explains that he realized after the fight with the king that he was lacking in strength, so he made this. He then names it Brunhild, while blushing, making the girls cringe. Following this, he heads into town to spend some more money, hoping to get some special service tonight. As he walks into the shop, Kohaku alerts him that there is someone watching him close by. With this knowledge, Tuya tells the girls he has some business to attend to. Despite this being such a strange reason to leave, he does it anyway, confronting the perpetrators. He tries to take them down, but they continue to run away, forcing him to shoot them a couple times. He then ties them up and feels along their body, causing one of the girls to expose herself. She explains that she is a spy working for the kingdom in order to watch over Princess Yumina. He listens to them talk and decides to let them go without making a fuss. Once he finishes up in the Beast People's kingdom, he heads home where he greets the spies who double as his maids. He promises not to reveal their secret in exchange for serving him well. Now with him finally home, he relaxes on his bed, sorting through all his pictures until he finds the right one. He sleeps all day like a bum until he eventually decides to go wash up. Upon arriving at the bath, he finds all the girls using it. Of course, he gets chased out, but he doesn't mind, enjoying the eye candy. With the girls mad at him, they try to consult him on being more careful, but Tuya's lust takes over. Later that week, he makes more items for various people in the kingdom, including some bicycles. The Duke is hesitant to such an item at first, but recognizes that with Tuya's technological advancements, they are sure to work. Once he completes them, he gives one to the Duke, but he struggles to get the hang of it. After he falls over, the butler tries to help him, causing Tuya to laugh at him in pity. The girls then see this happening, so they ask for bikes of their own. Tuya takes a strong liking to Linza after seeing her changing, so he goes to help her. Elsa sees all of this, so she steals a bike and tries to impress Tuya as well. This causes the two to start competing at who's faster, until the Duke proves his strength and emerges first. Enraged, Elsa knocks her sister over, causing her to fall as well. Following this, Tuya heads into town to try and find some more girls to add to his harem, until he stumbles upon a filthy peasant kid getting robbed. Tuya decides to step in, telling the thugs that they should back up before they get shot. They don't move, so Tuya shoots them, leaving the kid to fend for himself. He then hears the peasant kid's stomach grumbling, so he offers to buy him a meal. Once he starts running, however, it's revealed they are a she. This excites Tuya, so he buys her whatever she wants, asking her questions along the way. She tells him that she is homeless because her parents died in battle. Filled with joy, Tuya offers to provide her a place to stay in exchange for being one of his maids. She gladly accepts, which leads to Tuya dressing her up to his liking. Now, with another girl maid, he sends her on her way, deciding to pay attention to the other girls now. He then realizes he forgot to buy the items he was looking for, so he heads back over. This time, he brings along Yumina and Sue. While they walk around, they spot Arma, a girl he helped a little while back. She tells them that she is out shopping, so she asks if she can join along. As they talk, Tuya notices Orja out on a date with Lion, so they decide to go bug them. Tuya then stops them and decides it's better to play it cautiously to let it play out. They observe Lion being too much of a wuss to grab Orja's hand. Eventually, they head into a restaurant where the girls continue to stalk them. They wonder how to get close, knowing if they enter the restaurant they will be spotted. Knowing this, Tuya decides to use his phone to somehow get a perfect camera angle of the two's date. They casually watch their entire conversation, learning everything the two could have to hide. This makes Tuya wonder if he should take his girls out on dates, but decides it's best to just ball them all out. As they continue to follow the two, they run into the king, so he joins them in their stalking. He talks about his dates during his lifetime, revealing he was a player back in the day. Lion continues to try and make a move on Orja, but keeps fumbling the bag. Eventually, his chance arises when some thugs start destroying some people's food stands. With Lion outnumbered 10-1, the king and Tuya decide to step in while wearing masks. They think this will hide their appearance, but Lion sees through it right away. The king uses his magic to teleport away, leaving just Tuya to do the talking. He acts boldly, telling Lion that he needs to make a move already. He tells Tuya he was planning on it. He's just waiting for the right moment. Orja overhears this, so she tells him she accepts his feelings, which makes the two officially a couple. After these events, Tuya heads back home where he learns he has a guest. Walking over to him is Paula, the teddy bear that Lean commands. Tuya introduces her to Yumina, explaining she is an old hag despite her appearance. Lean then asks Tuya about the monster he defeated a while back when he first began adventuring. This leads them sitting down to talk where the other girls gossip about Tuya getting another wife. Lean then begins explaining, telling Tuya that she encountered a monster similar to what he did. Thanks to her investigating this incident, she learned more about Tuya, including the fact he can use all null magic. She learned all of this because of Charlotte, the kingdom's mage, and also Lean's apprentice. She finally explains more about the monster, telling Tuya it's something called a flaze from ancient times, With her knowledge, she then tells Tuya of a spell in which he can teleport anywhere from just seeing the location. She tells him that she would like him to learn it, use it on herself, and then open a gate to the location. She then suggests he use it on Kokonoe first to travel over to the Ishin continent. To use the spell, he needs to get up close and personal to her, but by doing this, he is able to learn the location of Ishin. After this, they share a moment until the other girls interrupt them, hoping she won't get any advantages over them. To continue the story, Tuya uses his gate spell to travel over to the Ishin continent, bringing new adventures. Once arriving, they stand around not doing much, until Lean urges Nonoko to hurry up and take her to her brother. After some exploring through the forest, they arrive at her hometown, Odo. While they walk around, Nonoko explain that this region is controlled by a lord rather than a king. As they walk around, they notice tons of different things that are unique to Ishin, making Tauya wonder why it resembles Japan so much. Eventually, Nonoko gets home to greet her family and introduce the others. With her sister and mom being just as fine as she is, Tuya is excited to see what they have to offer. Nonoko then asks where her father is leading to her, learning that he is on the battlefield currently. With a war recently erupting with a neighboring nation, he has been gone from home for days with no responses. Because of this, her father is currently trapped inside a castle, causing her to take matters into her own hands. She tells Tuya to use his magic to go to the castle, so he agrees. He explains himself as your typical black-haired Mick to her mom, assuring her he will bring him back safely. Once they arrive on the battlefield, Tuya alerts them that her brother is fighting, but her dad may be in danger. With not many options of traveling, they wonder how to safely enter the fortress. Tuya suggests he just keep teleporting as far as he can see, hoping to help them out. As he does this, he finds various soldiers who walk around as if they were zombies. Meanwhile, Nonoko's family members are seen receiving reports of their losses. As they talk, Tuya suddenly enters, causing suspicion among the soldiers. Tuya announces himself as Nonoko's friend, urging her brother to stand down. Once hearing this, he puts his weapon down, so Tuya uses the gate to summon his companions. With all girls around him, Nonoko's sister wonders what she has been up to nowadays. She then asks her brother how her father is doing, to which she learns he is steadily recovering. Tuya then sees a bunch of injured people, so he uses his phone to instantly heal all of them. By doing so, the spirits of the guards rise, making them think they will surely be able to fight back. Tuya then asks about the soldiers, to which he learns they are not humans, but rather artifacts. Artifacts are ancient relics that hold immense power to change the world as they see fit. Lean points out that his phone is one of these artifacts, so she tells him to get to work. After hearing this, he uses his phone to spawn in spells above every soldier on the battlefield and instantly take them out. With the tide of the battle shifting, everyone erupts in joy, thankful for Tuya's techniques. Later that day, they meet with Nonoko's father, who introduces himself as the lord of the land. He tells Tuya that he is impressed by his feats, and that he wouldn't mind if he married his daughter. Yumina interrupts, telling him she is already married, but this only raises the tension among the girls. Tuya then moves on to asking why they were attacked in the first place, not knowing why he just wiped an army. He learns that the opponents used an artifact to raise the dead and bring an undead army upon their base. With the enemy being surrounded by these undead inside of a castle, it's hard to win in battle. Once this is said, Tsubaki, a spy and informant, arrives to deliver information to the others. She explains that her leader was thrown in jail and their armies are being manipulated by someone else. Once the leader hears this, he considers taking them out, but knows he is too strong. Tuya then offers to go himself, being confident in his skills. To enter the castle, however, he needs a way to infiltrate it, so he decides to take Lean along with him to use camouflage magic. He leaves the other girls at the fortress, hoping he can let out some pent-up feelings on his enemies. Then before he leaves, he asks Tsubaki to imagine the fortress, leading to him getting close and personal. He places his head against hers, making a move in the process, but is stopped when the others get angry. Despite this, he learns the location of the base, so he teleports over along with Lean and Tsubaki. Here they use magic to become invisible, thus giving them an easy way to enter the fortress. He becomes ready to head out, but Lean has other plans before leaving. She groups Tsubaki all over, claiming it was Toya, thus putting him in a tricky situation. As she continues, she starts to enjoy it, making Tuya wonder if he should grab hold himself. He decides against it, however, leaving Tsubaki to think that it was Tuya all along. As they continue searching the area, they eventually find the man they have been looking for. Tsubaki explains to her master that the two before him are strong warriors that are capable of freeing him. With more people imprisoned farther back, Tuya opens his cell up to further adventure the prison. Encountering various members, Tuya frees them all until he has 3 people following him around. They all ask to join in on the fighting despite already being captured. Tuya then moves on to finding the leader, but first he needs to break their barrier. He does this with ease, and then does his previous cheat skill to rain down magic upon all of the soldiers. Now, with all of the soldiers defeated, they can roam the fortress with ease, eventually finding the leader of it all. He acts confident to the group, calling upon a soldier in the process. With this soldier being the lord of the area, they demand to return him, but it doesn't work. The lord continues to attack until Tuya steps in himself, taking out the lord with a single headshot. This forces the other guy to resort to his trump card, revealing an eye of immense power. Tuya simply steals this with his magic, however, causing the enemy to cower down and the controlled soldiers to be free. With everything finished up here, they head to the beach to hopefully discover new wonders. To start, Tuya scans the area for ruins, hoping they can find some kind of treasure out there. The girls then tell Tuya if they had swimsuits, they would go swimming if they could. With no swimsuits, however, they are unable to, so they suggest to Tuya they head back to Belfast to go buy some. With him going back, he decides to invite all of his friends, including the royal family and their guards. On top of this, he invites his slaves to join the ride, thinking the more women, the merrier. With this, the girls try to change, but have nowhere to do so, causing Tuya to summon them in some tents. With some girls having bigger busts than others, they all wonder if they will be able to impress Tuya. Then, after they all change, they present their outfits to Tuya, asking who looks the best. Tuya is unable to decide, so he just goes between looking at the girls' various figures. Eventually, the girls get ready to start splashing around, so they all run into the ocean. Following the first few girls, the younger ones emerge as well, but Tuya pays them no attention, knowing it's a waste of time. After these girls, his maids emerge, making Tuya wonder if he has had the wrong girls around him the entire time. He considers adding his maids to his party, but knows it's better to give them as little attention as possible. Even with the girls' advancements, he doesn't know how to react, deciding to just stare instead. He wonders if these girls can float with all the movement, but he diverts his attention to the older women. As he looks at all the girls, he notices the men competing in a swimming competition, leaving him alone with all the women. Eventually, he decides to go in the water, but he gets interrupted when Yumina runs over asking him to rate her. He tells her that will have to wait because he wants to go explore the nearby ruins first. Before he leaves, the final girl emerges, Lean, who acts indifferent to Tuya's glances. She tells him to hurry up and take her to the ruins already, it being the reason they originally came to the beach. He then wonders where Tsubaki is, thinking she has the best figure out of all the girls. With her not appearing, however, he decides to move forward with his plan and investigate the ruins. To start, he dives down to find the ruins, but he is unable to explore them from lack of oxygen. Because of this, he rethinks his plans, asking Lean if there are any spells that would let him breathe underwater. She then calls over Charlotte to see if she knows the spell, but she has no clue. With everyone being completely useless, Lean gets angered and cops a feel from Charlotte. Kohaku overhears all of this, so he suggests that he call upon a familiar to give him water-breathing techniques. Although it's usually impossible to summon a specific creature, Kohaku assures him, with his help, they can summon whoever. Tuya goes along with this plan, and thanks to Kohaku's help, he succeeds in summoning the beast he was looking for. Holding the appearance of a snake and turtle combined, Tuya wonders if this familiar can truly help him. He explains his situation, and the beast agrees to help him out. But first it wants to test his skills. Tuya decides to use multiple skills to continuously make the beast fall over, making them look like a fool. Meanwhile, the girls play volleyball together, each displaying their own strengths. After they score a point, Linz's swimsuit falls off, causing Tuya to run over to look. He misses the chance to get a peek, leading the other girls to talk about what would have happened if he was her. Tuya, on the other hand, finally overpowers the beast and gains the right to form a pact with it. He names it Sango, this time not getting embarrassed as he says the name. To finish things off, Sango transforms into a smaller form, like how Kohaku did, to not draw too much attention. Now, with Sango to help him breathe underwater, he heads back to the ocean's bay. Before he embarks on his journey, he goes to flirt with the girls a little bit, assuring them he has no interest in Lean. They continue to protest him, however, asking who looks the best if he isn't fond of Lean. He looks around but eventually decides to pick Sue, making the girls wonder if he is into younger girls. As he tries to explain himself, his phone drops, revealing a picture of Sue, thus putting him into a tricky situation. He attempts to explain himself, but the girls don't fold, knowing he is a sleazebag. To mediate the situation, Tuya invites the girls to go swimming with him, forgetting about his main task yet again. Eventually, after loafing around all day, he heads into the ruins, deciding to investigate it alone first. Upon exploring the ruins, he finds a magic circle that ends up teleporting him to a new location. He He looks around and finds himself in the middle of a large greenhouse with a young girl standing guard. She introduces herself to Tuya as the one who controls the Babylon ruins, Cheska. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out the winner of the last video's top comment, MRX661. Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Let's get back to the recap. He notices that she is only wearing a top, so he diverts his eyes, hoping she would put something less revealing on. She informs him that she has a skirt she can put on, so Tuya takes one last glance. He begins by asking her where he is, to which she explains that this is a floating garden in the skies. She then explains that this facility was built by the professor in her free time, using it as a place to research. Cheska explains that she has been working here for over 5,000 years, revealing she is actually a mix of a human and robot. He thinks about this all and realizes that she must have been lonely all this time. She explains that she has plenty to do here, treating all of the plants herself. She tells him that usually she has no time to spend chatting, but this is an exception. With his arrival, she explains that the professor placed that magic circle to pass down her knowledge to someone lucky. The reason it has stayed untouched for the past 5,000 years is because it required someone with all elements to activate the teleportation circle. With all of this knowledge, Tuya wonders what to do next. Currently hearing Cheska yap about her difficult life, she tells Tuya that she has awaited his arrival all these years, hoping the person who found her wasn't a pervert. Thanks to Tuya getting embarrassed by her getup, he proved his worth as someone compatible, thus transferring ownership to Tuya. Later that day, the girls are seen waiting around for Tuya. As they play, Charlotte gets knocked over, allowing a crab to find a new home. The girls wonder why it decided to stay there, which causes the other busty girls to inform the others that the same thing happened to them. This makes them a bit envious, but they continue about their days as usual until Tuya finally gets back. Once he does, he invites them along to the garden, introducing Cheska in the process while leaving out their little playtime from earlier. Lean then begins talking, telling the others that this whole garden is technically an artifact. With this, she asks Tuya who his new woman is, causing the other girls to get angry. Tuya explains that she watches over the garden, but because Tuya entered first, he is now the owner. Because of this, she explains she is now his wife, after he glanced upon her body. The other girls wonder what he has been doing all this time, finding it suspicious he was gone for hours. Because he knows he's in the wrong, he gets on his knees and apologizes to the girls, telling them it happened suddenly. This angers Linza, so she asks if they aren't enough for him, explaining she tried her best to impress him. Tuya is unsure how to respond, knowing there is no winning for him. Eventually, Lean tells Linza to leave the clueless man alone, explaining he has no clue what he is talking about. They then begin actually learning about the garden instead of taking pity on Tuya. With various plants that they have never seen before, the girls wonder how such a garden could be perceived for so long. As they walk, they talk about Tuya, mentioning how much they wish they could have some alone time. Once Yumina hears this, she reminds them of their previous plan, hoping to have the other girls marry Tuya. She reminds them of their last talk, where she exposed all of their feelings. With her having so much evidence, the girls are forced to acknowledge that they are in love with Tuya. Yumina explains that she doesn't care that they love him, but rather support them. She suggests that they all marry Tuya, knowing that he is way too good for just her. She tells them that she doesn't want to hold Tuya down, so she thinks they should all become his bride. Embarrassed, the girls try to avoid the question to announce their feelings to Tuya. Yumina persists, however, reminding them of all the times they are obviously trying to gain his attention. With this, she makes her proposal to them once again, hoping they will become Tuya's brides alongside her. Meanwhile, Tuya talks with the older girls, asking them what they think is holding this garden in the sky. Lean comments on how well everything is formulated, telling Tuya whoever made this is a genius. Tuya then asks Cheska if there is anything else, but sadly, the only thing within the garden is the plants. She explains that other than the plants there is the island and magic circles, but nothing that can be properly utilized. The other girls then emerge, still embarrassed by Yumina's proposal from earlier. Cheska then informs Tuya that this isn't the only floating island, there being a total of 5 to her knowledge. One of these includes a library catching Lean's attention. She asks if Cheska can connect to the other islands, but sadly she has no such ability. Linza then suggests Tuya use his phone, so he tries it out, searching the world. He gets no such luck, meaning if they want to find the other islands, they will have to search long and hard. Tuya then asks the girls what's wrong with them, noticing all of their faces are beet red. They ignore his question, so Tuya moves on to wondering what is next for their adventurers. He knows that he will have to leave the island soon, so he makes out with Cheska one last time. To his surprise, however, she informs him that because of them kissing, She is now bound to him, allowing her to leave the island. Not wanting to get behind, Linza decides to make a move herself, bringing Tuya in and kissing him as well. Tuya then decides to make Cheska his maid, knowing it's better to keep her close. Following this, he lies in bed, thinking about Linza's advancements on him. As he thinks, however, he gets interrupted by Yumina, asking if she can talk with him. Tuya thinks that he is in trouble for kissing other girls, but to his surprise, Yumina is mad about a different reason. She explains that even after being together for quite some time, he's never once made an advancement on her. She tells him that if he wants to keep her around, then he needs to make out with her as well. With this being said, she goes to sit next to Tuya, telling him to kiss her. Tuya tries to protest, but after he realizes her intentions are pure, Yumina becomes happy, telling Tuya he must be the first person he kissed from his own intentions. She then asks how he feels about Linza, causing Tuya to explain he loves her as... She feels bad about taking advantage of Tuya, but thanks to his laid-back attitude, he tells her he doesn't mind. Once Yumina hears this, she suggests that Linza become Tuya's wife, making him wonder if he can really have multiple wives accept her as a finance. With them being his girls now, he is okay with kissing them, giving a goodnight kiss. He then heads to bed, only to get woken up abruptly in the morning. Standing before him is Elsa, who informs him she needs to talk about something serious with him. She asks Tuya if he really loves Linza, learning that he accepted her as his wife. He tells them he does so. They decide to fight him to see if then he will be forced to accept one of their requests. They back, making him wonder what is even happening. He decides to girl. After defeating them all, he announces his victory, but the girls don't give up. They tell him that his victory won't be so easy, smacking him in the face in the process. He wakes up to find Nonoko and Elsa asking him to wed them as well, making them his third and fourth wives. Yumina then emerges following this, telling Tuya to express his feelings properly. Tuya decides to take a robust approach. Asking to gather his thoughts, he heads to the garden where he meets with Cheska about his future. He asks her if he can truly wed all these girls, to which she explains she has a message for him. She tells him that the professor who built this place left her with a cord to be used by someone one day. Tuya inspects it. Ashes shows him her underwear, causing Tuya to wonder what's going on. She tells him it's a joke and moves on to telling him she has the answer he is looking for. She starts by explaining she can see into the future, allowing them to speak here and now. She tells him that his future is unstable, informing him that the phrase, aka the monster he battled long ago, will soon be out of control. She explains that they were built during her lifetime, and they were built purely for destruction. If people thought the world would end. Now this brings us to the future where she tells Tuya he needs to take them down himself. Tuya forgets about all this and asks God is seen watching TV nonchalantly until Tuya decides to pull up. He appears before God, explaining his situation and telling him he doesn't know if he should marry them all. God tells him he knows just the person to help him out, dialing his phone. Tuya wonders who he could be calling, but right after God hangs up, a pink-haired beauty emerges. God introduces her as the god of love, telling Tuya that he can surely get some advice from her. She tells him that if he truly loves all four of them, then he should commit to them all. Tuya wonders if he can satisfy that many girls, but she assures him with his powers he can surely make them all happy. Upon hearing this, Tuya heads back to his mansion, where he informs the girls of what he has concluded. He tells them he won't marry them right now, but rather in a few years. He tells them he wants them to develop first, then he will decide to marry all of them. Although they are reluctant at first, this still means he has accepted them all as his wives, so they get happy. With this, Yumina suggests they all make out with him, but this makes them embarrassed. Linza tells them that she already did it, so she knocks him out, being too embarrassed yet to kiss him.